Okay, so this one is this is fun. So there's two quick stories. One is the clay pot story. So this was an experiment done at I think it was a university, an innovation experiment where they took a class of kids and said, all right, your final grade is going to be determined by, I think it was 90% of your final grade was going to be determined on your final kiln. You know, you put the clay into the kiln and come out with the final product. So 90% is going to be determined by that final exam, or the final bake-off, or baking, whatever. So then they had a second group where they changed it, and they said, you're going to be, 90% of your grade is on the amount of clay that you bake and the amount of pots that you make throughout the whole semester. It was a month long. And then 10% of your grade is the final. The difference in quality between the two sets of the two groups' pots was extraordinarily different. The ones that had baked the most throughout that month actually had the highest quality pots, the most beautiful pots, versus the one where they had waited to the end to come up with that final pot. So to the concept of small bets, and that's part of why I'm doing the technology showcase, is I want to challenge all of you, the way I've challenged my own teams, to come up with ideas and have iterative testing on something that's interesting. You may or may not have value for the business, but you can test it, and your team gets excited because they get to play around with something interesting and new, and you don't know where it's going to fit, but you're testing. But can you do it in a small bet way? Can you take a daily bet or a weekly bet or a monthly bet instead of looking at something that is going to take 6 months or a year? So I actually haven't read this book, but I was looking for the concept of little bets. I actually do have the book, I just haven't read it. But this little bets concept is important, and it relates to the clay pot. So that kind of tees up the question. If you have, well, let me ask this question beforehand. How many of you have a defined innovation budget north, it's like a line item, north of 10,000 per year? You can't talk, you can't, yeah, Camille's on a different planet. Which is a good thing, yeah, Camille's got a pretty robust innovation budget. Okay, one person north of 10. How about 5 and above? Anybody have a defined line item or a slush fund? Or I could turn it into an innovation line item, okay? Okay, you got another. How about 1,000? Does anybody can just make 1,000, do something? Okay, so whether we call it a slush fund or whether we call it a mistake budget or whatever, we have many of you have the ability to get access to innovation dollars. However, if you had 5 to 6 in slush innovation funds to dedicate towards a side project for innovation, what would you invest in and test? And I'm going to add a time frame. I'm going to add a time frame of sub 3 months. Okay, something that you could test. I would actually want to say 30 days, but it's a short time frame. But you can invest to come up with something. Say again? Oh yeah, so 35 and a half seconds, you got an extra second to move to your new table.